Okay, if I were to meet you on the street today and say, who is Kesha Rogers, what would you tell me?
I would tell you Kesha Rogers is candidate for the U.S. Senate who is fighting right now to restore the commitment toward true economic progress in our nation. I have been an active Democrat reviving the legacy of President Franklin Roosevelt and John F. Kennedy for many years now.
What is that? When you say that often, what is that legacy you're quote-unquote reviving, Kesha?
Throwing Wall Street moneyed interest out of the party. That means commitment to physical economic progress, making sure we can feed our population, making sure we have a full-scale science driver program such as the funding of NASA, making sure that we stop a policy of bailing out financial institutions against the interest and will of the progress of the nation.
You have consistently called for crushing Wall Street and impeaching the president. Tell us why.
Yes, crushing Wall Street is what we need to do right now is immediately reinstate Glass-Steagall banking reorganization to put an end to the frivolous Wall Street financial derivatives and speculative policy. This president is in line with that interest, with that Wall Street interest. And the problem is that you have Republicans who are in bed with Wall Street the same way the Democrats are. That's why the Republicans are refusing to impeach Obama now, because he represents that interest, just like Nancy Pelosi and others in the Democratic Party refused to impeach President Bush when he should have been impeached for his capitulation to the Wall Street interest.
So you're saying there's no difference in the two parties?
There's no difference in the two parties under that financial control system. That's why we have to go back to development of the Democratic Party, which I'm calling to represent in the tradition of a Hamiltonian system, credit system for long-term development, long-term infrastructure projects, millions of productive jobs. Let's deal with this drought. Let's deal with this water crisis. Let's deal with the unemployment right now. And let's deal with the fact that you have a president who's about to lead us into a extinction war, thermonuclear war, on behalf of the British and Wall Street financial interests. And nobody's taking that up.
You're talking about what we're seeing play out now in Russia, Crimea, Ukraine.
Yes.
You believe that's going to lead us into a thermonuclear war?
Yes. I believe that's going to lead us into a thermonuclear war, because you have a policy where people in the Congress right now just capitulated and acted like idiots who voted in favor of the sanctions against Russia, of supporting Nazis in Ukraine, and continuing a policy in that region, which is going to lead to a continued implications of a drive toward war. The target is Russia. The target is China. And that's what you're dealing with right now. And the reason that's happening is because the whole financial system is bankrupt. So the financial interest of Wall Street and the City of London, that's the only recourse that they have right now, is to go for war. And
you're saying that President Obama is moving at the direction of the British?
Yes, he supports that. He supports this policy.
What do you say we should do with Russia and Crimea and Ukraine? What do you say we should do?
First of all, we don't have any interest or any business over there in the first place. We need to take care of home. Secondly, we need to work with nations such as Russia in terms of sovereign collaboration between sovereign nations, in terms of developing industry, infrastructure, developing scientific missions for these nations working together in a common interest for the common aims of mankind. The interest that we have in the control right now that's being perpetrated by the financial interest is to crush these nations, including crushing the United States.
Democrats in Texas have aligned against you, and it's no secret, Kesha. It is a public campaign. It is a social media campaign. They have pulled out all stops to stop you.
Yeah, and what they're doing right now is they're hurting themselves. When they go out there and say Kesha Rogers wants to build millions of productive jobs, wants the space program revived, wants classical culture revived, and say this is not a Democratic Party platform, I mean, that's ignorance. When you have one of the representatives Mark Vesey, who comes out and says that his primary goal is to stop Kesha Rogers. That's his mission, and you're a Congress member, and you have people starving and losing their food and losing their industry and losing their jobs, and you say that your role is to stop Kesha Rogers. I think somebody needs to check his status, and maybe we need to vote him out immediately. But the key thing right now, we have to impeach this president. He has been in violation of the Constitution. The violations are numerous, continuing the Bush policy of NSA warrantless spying, continuing the policy of illegal wars without the express consent of Congress, and the list goes on. People can look at the record there. They know it. What's the problem? You have Wall Street Republicans who are more concerned about an election and their Wall Street money who will not touch this president, and you have Democrats who are stuck on, pardon me, on the Bush plantation because they will not go after this president, knowing his violations.
How will you win this runoff? The final question, when Dr. Alamil certainly has the money to outspend you in terms of media campaign.
Dr. Alamil spent $4.5 million in a congressional race here in the Dallas area and came in fourth in a 12-way race. He spent $3.5 million against me and in the primary along with the other candidates and could not stop a runoff election. This guy will not debate me. If he's really qualified to lead the state and lead this nation, tell him to come to the table, bring forth the debate, bring forth the issues. I don't think that his money is worth anything because the people right now are starving, the people are hurting, and they want leadership and they want solutions.
Should you beat him, do you think this Democrat Party in Texas will get behind your campaign against the incumbent Senator Cornyn?
If they don't, then that's going to be the downfall of the Democratic Party, because the essence of reversing the 20-year lapse or collapse of the Democratic Party leadership in Texas is going to depend on my victory and what I'm representing to revive the true legacy of the Democratic Party and crush the Wall Street interests out of the Democratic Party.
Kesha Rogers for U.S. Senate. Thank you for visiting with us.